driving change that is sustainable to enrich communities and to be better for this generation and the next. That's the mission of NYSE-listed company Gap, who is here to ring the opening bell to celebrate its 55th anniversary of founding. Good morning, I'm Trinity Chavez. Welcome to NYSE TV Live, and today is Thursday, August 22nd. And as I mentioned, Gap will ring the opening bell, kicking off a busy day of trading. As a part of the festivities, many of us are decked out in Gap's apparel. I opted for their jeans and hoodie this morning, and I am sure many of the traders on the floor are wearing similar outfits that are a part of the collection of Gap's loose style celebration of its newest campaign that promotes self-expression, Get Loose. But we'll get to all of that a little bit later on in the show. Meantime, Gap has been a part of the NYSE community for nearly a half a century, listing with the NYSE on July 30th, 1976. In 1997, Gap celebrated its first Casual Friday as a part of its Gap at Work campaign. The retail giant addressed traders, well, they dressed traders in its khakis and button-down shirts for what they called a polished yet relaxed professional look. Fun fact, the museum at the Fashion Institute of Technology, located right here in Manhattan, acquired a Gap Casual Friday outfit for its collection and quickly added it to its 50 years of fashion exhibit. Gap has been a part of several other memorable bells here at the NYSE, including teaming up with the charity organization Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America in 2004 and the Brooklyn Circus to celebrate Black History Month in 2023. The company has also celebrated its 40th anniversary celebration right here at the NYSE in 2009. The Gap takeover on 2 Broad Lobby here at the New York Stock Exchange is intended to showcase many of the campaigns, charitable initiatives, and groundbreaking new designs that Gap has pioneered over the years. Artifacts include the Cable Car Bell Award, gifted to Gap when the organization helped save the cable cars of Gap's native San Francisco, the distinctive pocket tee, which debuted in 1984, and Sharon Stone's Gap mock turtleneck from the 1996 Oscars. Now we're going to continue our live coverage from the boardroom on the 6th floor here at the New York Stock Exchange, and we'll meet you right back here.
Good morning, everyone. For those of you I've not yet met, my name is Lynn Martin. I'm the president of the New York Stock Exchange. That banner looks damn good on our podium, and the thing that I like best about seeing that banner on our facade today is the new ticker. Who doesn't love the new ticker? Returning a ticker to its rightful owner, the Gap, G-A-P and Gap synonymous this morning. I'm here to talk about our shared history, because if I look at our history, we stand for the same thing. An American classic that is truly here to embrace an inclusive society, and one that's really not veered from that North Star since your founding 55 years ago and our founding 232 years ago. So I couldn't be prouder to be wearing Gap this morning. So you were founded 55 years ago, and I have a few fun facts about our intertwined history to share with you this morning. So first, 1997. 1997 was an important year in our history as we moved to a more modern culture where we allowed the traders on the floor for the first time to wear khakis, Gap khakis. Changing the standard that we had previously, which was you needed to be in a suit and tie to trade on the floor. So you helped change our dress code then. Then let's move forward to 2009, when we did our first remote bell ringing. Where did we do it? Your San Francisco offices, to celebrate your 40th anniversary. And then to celebrate that milestone, we yet again changed our wardrobe on the floor, and for the first time allowed jeans on the floor. Now that's big stuff, folks, allowing jeans on the trading floor at the New York Stock Exchange. And of course, first jeans were Gap. So we are thrilled today to be celebrating your 55th anniversary. And if I look back, your IPO in 1976, May 19th, 1976, was pretty darn close to our own birthday in 1792, maybe a few years later, when you IPO'd on the exchange at $18 a share. If I look at your performance over the last year, the last year, the performance of your stock, you're up almost 160% in 1 year. In 1 year. So, now, a big reason for that is all the amazing work you do, not veering from your North Star, getting back to basics, but it's also because of someone that I like to refer to as one of my favorite CEOs in our community. And trust me, I'm not saying that because he's right over there. I do get asked that frequently, and he has become one of my favorite CEOs. Richard, come on up to the podium. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Go Lynn, President.
Team Gap.
Thank you all so much for joining us at the New York Stock Exchange in this incredible room to celebrate our 55th anniversary, which when you hear the age of the New York Stock Exchange, we're just a baby. I mean, we're just getting started. And to some extent, the story of the Gap has always been shaped by the people of the Gap. And it's something that I've been incredibly mindful of since the day I joined this incredible company. So it really does mean a lot to me to share this moment with all of you, particularly including Bob Fisher and his daughter. Really important of our foundation, our history, our present, and our future. We also have many people from our senior leadership team here. We've got employees, we've got members of our community, we've got great partners, we've got great collaborators. I've even got some of my family members here. And in just a few moments, we're going to ring this opening bell, and it's going to be a really exciting moment. But then, for the first time ever, we're going to be trading under our new ticker symbol, GAP. And it's to some extent it's so obvious, but it's both a reflection of this company's incredible legacy, and it's also a tribute to the growing sense of pride in who we are and ultimately where we're going. Now, I have to say, it is incredibly exciting to look around and see many of you wearing our loved essentials, a Gap 1969 sweatshirt to mark this milestone moment, and there is a whole lot of denim, which, of course, is the fabric that started our company since day one. Nothing personifies American idealism or inspires the kind of confidence that you could all feel when you put on a great pair of jeans. And this is a truth that our founders, Doris and Don Fisher, tapped into when they opened up the very first Gap store in the heart of San Francisco. This was a retail experience like no other that bridged the generation gap with jeans for all and music that moved people. Right from the start, Gap had a unique blend of fashion and entertainment. And it was a totally new and very exciting retail experience that literally, of course, drove sales, but it sparked cultural conversations. We took a color like khaki and made it a pant and a movement. Then we outfitted the New York Stock Exchange in khakis and later in denim. We helped create Casual Fridays, which led to Casual Everydays. We designed white shirts that were worthy of getting the cover of Vogue. We even produced an original duet with Madonna and Missy Elliott. When we look at today, this spring, we ignited a viral sensation that showed the world how linen moves. We reimagined denim as couture for the Met Gala. And yesterday, we launched Get Loose, Gap's latest campaign, which highlights our new loose denim collection, thank you very much, that is as much about fit as it is about a feeling. And the creative work, thank you team, is brilliant. But the real genius of our company, then and now, is that we've always been purpose-minded. Doris Fisher nailed it when she said, "We do so much more than sell clothes." For 55 years, Gap Inc. has been active in every community, our country, and our world. We've been quietly building and then supporting scores of programs and initiatives that recognize that we, as a company, as a team, we have a role to play in bridging the gaps that exist today between us. To date, these programs have positively impacted millions of people around the world. What began as a single store to bridge the generation gap is today a leading house of brands that bridges gaps to create a better world. And our work to bridge the climate gap, the equity gap, the opportunity gaps, the inclusion gaps, it's recognition that despite our differences, and there are a lot today, there is shared humanity in the gaps between us. It's an optimism that's as timely as it is timeless. And it goes to the heart of Gap, our people, our purpose. We bridge gaps to create a better world. These are spaces where we can lead with real credibility, and then we can collaborate with like-minded partners, many of whom are here today to celebrate with us, but more importantly, to amplify our impact and make a meaningful difference in an otherwise divided world. Today, in changing our ticker symbol to GAP, we are badging that aspiration with new clarity, motivated by unshakable determination to make Gap Inc. matter even more. Doris was right. We do sell more than clothes. We enable good, and that is worth celebrating. So, let's go ring that bell and ring it in with an exciting new chapter that is the beginning of a new beginning. And thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Don't go anywhere. So we've got a couple of traditions at the New York Stock Exchange, being your slightly older cousin. One of the traditions we have is we present a medallion to our bell ringer every morning. It's my honor to present you with today's Richard. Think about today's as not the Gap Day, but also the start of the GAP movement.
Yes.
Congratulations. And then one of the other traditions we have is no one goes away empty-handed, so you all will receive a slightly smaller medallion, not engraved. On the front of the medallion are our 6 pillars. They stand for a variety of things, but importantly, they stand for our North Star, which is access to free markets around the globe. And on the back is the buttonwood tree. 232 years ago in May, we were founded under a buttonwood tree on the corner of Wall and Broad. It reminds us of our roots. It reminds us of our commitment to sustainability. One other thing before we go. So we have a tradition where for anniversaries, we present our companies with an anniversary certificate, which it's my honor to present you with your 55th anniversary certificate. But importantly, this is the original certificate for your ticker change as well. Congratulations. All right, are you all ready to do this? Woo! All right. So, the way this is going to work, if you got a blue stripe on your badge, you're going to join Richard and myself by the doors right over there. You're going to be on the podium with us to open the markets. If you don't have a blue stripe on your badge, you have a really important job. You will be in front of CNBC's booth. They will be broadcasting.
Now, we just heard from NYSE President Lynn Martin and Gap Incorporated CEO and President Richard Dickson. He was saying a lot of emotional things, and his team, I even saw, was getting a little emotional listening to him speak. He was talking about how 55 years they have been active not only in our community but also around the world, bridging the gaps that we're seeing in climate gap, the equity gap, inclusion, and opportunity gaps, and the recognition despite the differences that we have in our world today. And he also said that Gap is bridging all of these gaps for a better world. And today is a part of that celebration as we welcome them, changing their new ticker symbol to Gap. Now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We'll catch up with them on the trading floor a little bit later on in the show, but we're going to talk about Q2 earnings. Gap reports its Q2 earnings next week, and joining us to talk more about and give us more insight into the retail space is David Schwartz. He is the Senior Equity Analyst at Morningstar. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to have you on the show today. So, let's just dive into this topic. Gap has been a household name in the retail and fashion industry for decades. Meanwhile, Old Navy is the brand bringing in the most revenue according to the company's latest quarterly figures. So, what are investors watching more closely when it comes to Gap Incorporated?
Old Navy is certainly the key when it comes to Gap. Old Navy, as you said, generates more than half of Gap's revenue, and I'm sure it generates something like 80% of Gap's operating income. So it's the brand that really drives the stock and drives the company. Of course, Gap's 3 other brands are also important, especially Athleta. Although it is the smallest of Gap's 4 brands, it is the one that has probably the most growth potential and is potentially its most profitable brand in terms of margins. Gap really wants to continue the momentum that it's seen in the last couple of quarters. In the last quarter, Gap had positive same-store sales growth at all 4 of its concepts, which is something that hadn't happened in many years.
And speaking of earnings, Gap reports its Q2 figures a week from today. So what are your expectations? What questions are you hoping the company will answer?
My expectations are that Gap has about 3% growth, and my EPS estimate is 38 cents. I think we want to see Gap generate positive same-store sales growth, especially at Old Navy. Old Navy is up against a very easy comparison with last year. It had a negative 6% comp in the second quarter last year. So I think that Old Navy should post a very strong quarter. Old Navy does benefit from the low cost of its products. It does seem to work right now with the way that the apparel market is going, with a lot of stronger growth from apparel makers and retailers that sell lower priced items rather than department stores, for example. I think we want to hear more about Gap's efficiency efforts to cut costs as well as to drive sales growth.
In your latest report on Gap, you indicated a very high level of uncertainty when it comes to the Gap stock. Why is that?
Gap has had a lot of problems. This is a company that really has struggled for most of the past 20 years. That's just the reality. It certainly has looked a lot brighter in the last couple quarters. The CEO change last year, there was a long period where Gap didn't even have a permanent CEO. So the bringing in Mr. Dickson last year as CEO, I think seems to have stabilized the business. But the reality is that this is a company that's been troubled. This is a company that has struggled. Its main concepts in the past were Gap and Banana Republic, and both of them now are really in decline and closing stores. So this is not a company that is entirely healthy.
Now, I just want to point out to our viewers right now that we're getting images of Lynn Martin and the executive team and, team members of Gap Incorporated headed to underneath the Bell podium where they're going to sign the Distinguished Guest Book right before ringing the opening bell. But, another question, when it comes to new campaigns or initiatives, what are analysts and investors looking out for from Gap and its product offerings?
Gap needs to upgrade its styles, and it has been doing that. It brought in Zach Posen, who's a well-known fashion designer, to help out with that, and he's now involved in design at the whole company, and especially at Old Navy. Gap does need to upgrade. It has at times fallen behind. It can't just sell the same products year after year and expect people to buy them, because the fashion industry and the apparel industry is just too competitive and it moves too quickly. And styles change these days faster than ever due to the influence of social media, for example. Gap is also working on its marketing. It has been running new TV commercials in the last few months, and it is trying to go back to maybe some of the kind of vibrant, upbeat marketing that really drove the business in its heyday back in the 90s.
And last week, we learned that retail sales jumped by 1% in July, considerably higher than the 0.3% Dow Jones estimated. So what does this say about the health of consumers?
Generally, consumers are still spending. The unemployment rate is still low. Inflation is declining. That's certainly helping. Like gas prices, for example, are down. Apparel spending is kind of uneven right now. We have seen some good reports and some not so good reports. Macy's, for example, reported yesterday, and the quarter itself was pretty good, but the outlook was kind of dim. So it is kind of a difficult market out there right now for apparel retailers, but it could be worse. Right now it's somewhere in the middle between good and bad.
Well, thank you so much, David, for all of that insight and joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you.
Now we're getting images right now of the whole team underneath the Bell podium signing the Distinguished Guest Book right in front of CNBC's set. They're going to head up to the Bell podium and open up the U.S. equity markets in just a few moments. And as I said, we're going to catch up with them on the trading floor in just a few moments. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Gap Incorporated. Now, the CEO, Richard Dickson, he will ring the opening bell alongside the mix of senior executives and the company's founding family, the Fishers. In a nod to the founders' ethos, Don and Doris Fisher, who famously said, quote, "We must do more than sell clothes." The Gap team also invited a cross-section of the company's long-standing sustainability and charity partners to ring in the occasion, including leaders from the Lower East Side Girls Club, the Brotherhood Sister Soul, Harlem's Fashion Row, Tent, and Welcome.us. Now, last year, Gap teamed up with fashion brand the Brooklyn Circus to celebrate the spirit of individuality and culture. And the two companies rang the closing bell together here at the NYSE to close out Black History Month in 2023. Judy Shaw has more.
I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Mark Breitbart. He is the president and CEO at Gap Global. We have Ouija Theodore. He is the creative director and founder at the Brooklyn Circus. And we have Baja Johnson. She is head of equality and belonging at Gap Inc. Wonderful to have you all here. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
So, Mark, I want to start with you. Tell me about Gap's collaboration with the Brooklyn Circus and why they're the perfect partner for the Gap.
Well, this has been an amazing partnership. I'm really proud of the work we've done. And we continue to want to bring new energy to modern American style. And so celebrating inclusivity, culture, in this case, especially Black culture, and the creativity. And Ouija Theodore has this superpower of bringing together this global village. And his take on the history of American style just was really natural. So for him to take icons that we've sort of become famous for and reinvent them with new energy is why we've done this partnership.
All right, and I feel very lucky to be wearing part of this collaboration today.
Swagged out. Yes.
So now, would you tell me, what was the creative inspiration behind the collection, and how are you feeling today ringing that closing bell?
Oh man, ringing the closing bell at the New York Stock Exchange. I'm a New York kid by way of Haiti, Port-au-Prince. And to be here on the floor is just amazing, amazing. Because me as a young kid in the 9th grade, shopping the Gap throughout my history, to get the opportunity to work with the Gap on this collaboration, student power. It's about American culture, it's about Black culture, it's about all cultures and what America is made of. And so to get the opportunity to be on the floor with the Gap team because of this collaboration is a dream come true, and it's a part of our 100-year plan.
All right, love it, 100-year plan. All right, so Basha, tell me, how does the Gap Inc. honor Black History Month, and how does the Gap brand collab with the Brooklyn Circus fit into your E&B commitments?
Oh, honestly, the beauty of this collaboration and the beauty of how we approach Black History Month is that it really speaks to how we approach equality and belonging. And how we approach equality and belonging year round is that we're driving a sense of belonging and inclusion end to end for our employees, for our customers, for our communities. And so when we think about moments like Black History Month, they are amplifications of the work that we are doing year round. They are not just a moment in time. And so when I look even around the floor today and see all the incredible people on the Gap brand side, on the Brooklyn Circus side, who came together to authentically honor Black History Month, but really honor the history behind our two brands, it speaks to the work that we are doing year round, period.
Now, when Gap rings the opening bell this morning, they will be undergoing a notable change to its stock ticker. The company, which has been trading under the ticker symbol GPS since listing here at the NYSE, will officially change its ticker symbol to GAP, or Gap, today. Tara Jejic, head of U.S. listings for the NYSE, is joining me now to talk more about this. And we heard the crowd over there getting a little excited. That's just a precursor as to what's to happen, right?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think we're twinning.
We're twinning. We didn't even plan this, guys.
You might be jealous of my dungarees here.
I do have to say, I am a little jealous. I mean, they're so cute on you.
Well, they're very comfortable too, fashionable and functional.
I love it. So let's get into the ticker conversation. I mean, this is what the viewers want to hear about. So talk to me about actually what goes into companies who want to change their ticker symbol.
So there's actually a plan that's governed by the SEC, the National Market System Plan for the Selection and Reservation of Securities Symbols. That's a mouthful. It was approved by the SEC in 2008, and essentially what it does is it governs this process and allows exchanges and FINRA to put in reservation requests and have transparency as to whether a ticker is already active, reserved by another venue, or can be reserved.
But why would companies normally want to go through this process? Why would they want to change their ticker in the first place?
So a company will change a ticker or select a ticker based on either their brand or their initials or a product or service that they have that they bring to the market. So it really is part of the trading ecosystem, and it can really bring a brand to life. Perfect example today with Gap changing their ticker symbol from GPS to GAP. It says it right there in the name. Home Depot, HD, JP Morgan, Chase, JPM. But some companies like AB InBev, they own Budweiser, their ticker is Bud. Molson Coors, TAP, or Salesforce really goes to their product, CRM, Cloudflare, Net. In fact, just yesterday, our closing bell, Advanced Drainage Systems, their ticker symbol is WMS. You'd say, why? Water Management Solutions, bingo.
Love it. Simplifying it one ticker symbol at a time. Thank you so much, Tara, for joining us.
Great.
I'll see you later. Now we're about 30 seconds from ringing the opening bell, opening up the U.S. equity markets, and I do want to point out that there's probably at least 100 people here on the trading floor just right behind me, right next to CNBC's set, and this is an active trading floor. We've had between 100 to 200 traders that are placing in those orders that have come in overnight as we get ready to open up the markets. We're going to give you the play-by-play of all of that and so much more, along with a market update when we speak to Jay Woods when we come back right after the opening bell. Joining me now is Jay Woods. He is the Chief Global Strategist at Freedom Capital Markets, and the market just opened. We're up slightly. I'm seeing a lot of green on the screen, Jay.
Yeah, 9 out of 10 days, the S&P 500 has been higher. That's fantastic. We'll see if this streak can continue, and we got a lot of energy in this building with Gap ringing the bell. They really brought it today.
We love that energy. We always love when we have a good crowd like that. But tell me, what's driving the market today?
What's driving the market today is just continued momentum, getting anticipation of what Jay Powell may say tomorrow at Jackson Hole. We look like we're about to get that first rate cut in September 18th. If we do, then that could bode well for the market. The market's anticipating it, so maybe this is a buy the rumor, sell the news event. But right now, momentum continues to be up. It's slowing a little bit, but it's good to end the week on an up note as we wait for Powell's comments tomorrow.
But Gap, it's an iconic retailer. Obviously, I want to talk about the retail sales data that has come out. What would you say the results of that says about the overall health of the consumer?
Well, the consumer's been selective, and they've been picking the Gap lately. The stock has been doing well. I feel like I'm a kid in the 80s again, wearing my little hoodie here. As a Gap consumer my whole life, it's fun to see them come and celebrate the symbol change. But GAP, it just makes sense. It's fantastic. But the retailers have been resilient. We've seen it in the large retailers. We've seen it in some of the smaller retailers like Gap. So I think things are going well despite some negative headwinds out there. For the most part, the consumer remains resilient, and they've been shopping, and we've got our Gap close today to celebrate. So fun.
And as we're seeing the executive team sign the wall, making their way down from the Bell podium onto the trading floor, when we're going to speak to the team in a little bit, I do want to say that to our viewers, that's what we're getting images of now. But let's talk about Gap stock for a minute. Triple digits, last 12 months, significant growth. And this is an iconic moment for them. So what would you say those numbers compared to the overall S&P 500, what does that say?
Well, it says that, one, they've turned things around. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Things are going well. They're getting people back in the stores. I have 3 kids. I know this for a fact. But the trend continues to be up. It's off to a rough start today. But, that's just the dip, a buying opportunity for the long-term investors. And at the New York Stock Exchange, we love celebrating companies we've had long relationships with. So this is just another step in the road higher for the Gap. It's fantastic.
And jobs growth experienced its biggest downward spiral, since 2009. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about this. What impact would you say this has on the consumer and the overall market for that matter?
Yeah, well, that jobs growth number that came out yesterday was a revision, and it was a little wonky. It did not cause the market to go down, so I'm not going to make a lot out of that. But yes, unemployment is ticking higher, but where is it coming from? All-time historical lows. So yes, we will make a bigger deal of it. It is slightly a concern. That's what the Fed is going to address at their next meeting as they saw unemployment tick up. Maybe that rate cut will help stem that tide, but a little tick up from historical lows, to me, as a long-term investor, isn't the end of the world, and nothing I think the market is fearful of at this point in time.
But how do you think all this news is really driving the timing of a rate cut?
Well, it's going to help with the rate cut. I mean, the Fed has a dual mandate. They want to get inflation under control back down to their 2% goal. They can check that box. We're at 2.6%. We have the PCE number coming out next week that will verify that things are going well. Unemployment was the other part of that dual mandate. They kind of didn't address that until the last meeting. We saw in the Fed minutes yesterday that they talked about it, they were concerned about it, but the unemployment number came out 2 days after their meeting. They should have cut last time. The market got a little jittery. I still think we'll have some jitters, as September seasonally is the worst month of the year. But over the long term, if they make that initial cut, we'll see what happens. The Fed is data dependent, very boring, but one data point at a time. And the data, while the unemployment numbers are softening a little bit, it's not at a concern yet. And hopefully a cut will help assuage some fears.
But I want to talk deeper on this subject. How will the average American feel this rate cut? How will Americans feel it across the board?
Well, across the board, hey, rate cuts are great. It's great for the companies that have to lend and loan at a lower rate. It's great for people shopping for a house. For the mortgage market, we saw mortgages go up to 8% on a 30-year fix. They're now under 7% and slowly decreasing. So that'll get people out and give them more flexibility in how they spend, because they're going to be paying less for that house, for that car. And what will they do? It will help retailers. It will help people go out and spend on some of those discretionary items that maybe they were holding back on.
The next Fed's meeting is in September. Is there anything that could happen from now to that meeting that could impact the decision of rate cuts?
Well, of course, something could always happen. Geopolitical events could throw a monkey wrench into things, but I think when we have them, I know when we have them doing this for 30 years, that a geopolitical event, it will cause angst, it will cause volatility in the markets, but the long-term growth of the economy has been stable, has been steady since we got out of COVID, and I think the Fed has been doing the right things, maybe a little slow to act. We can go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, it seems like the trajectory is there. We are in what I believe is a secular bull market that can last 2 more years, and these bumps, these seasonal headwinds are normal events, but when you live through them, they're not fun. So yeah, there could be a geopolitical event that throws things off. There's going to be a lot of rhetoric with this election. I think there'll be some headlines when they talk about politics over the next few months. Ignore those. Long term, it won't matter. We usually rally end of the year. 2016, 2020, both controversial elections. Guess what happened when the election was over? We rallied strong into the end of the year. I think the setup is there to do it again.
All about that long-term investment. Thank you so much, Jay.
You got it. Thank you.
It's great to have you. Now, there's plenty of more activity here on the trading floor that we're going to be covering, but before we do that, I want to take you to Los Angeles, where I was covering the Canva Create event, and Canva sees, for those of you who might not know, more than $2.2 billion in annual revenue and attracts more than 185 million users every single month. I spoke with the company's co-founder and CEO, Melanie Perkins. Check it out.
I was at university and I was teaching design programs, and they were really complex and hard, and I thought they should be online and collaborative and simple. And got to work trying to do that with our first company, Fusion Books, and then now obviously Canva.
And you know, this is the first time that you've hosted Canva event like this in the United States. Tell me about the significance in it being here in Los Angeles.
We are extraordinarily excited to bring Canva Create here to Los Angeles. It's one of our largest markets in the US. We have more than 400,000 people designing each month here. We've created 1.4 million designs in the last month alone. And so we're extraordinarily excited about being able to bring all of the magic here to LA.
And tell me about how Canva is helping revolutionize the way people create, the way they remain innovative and ahead of the curve.
Our goal is to give people all of the tools that they need at their fingertips so they can take their idea and turn that into a design and have no friction between those 2 points. And so over the last decade, that has meant that we've invested really heavily in our presentations products, giving everyone all of the ingredients that they need, all of the AI tools that they could possibly want at their fingertips.
And you know, during your first year of starting Canva, your initial user base was over 750,000. Now that number has grown to over 185 million around the world. That's hugely significant. I mean, how does that make you feel when you think of how much you've grown?
We have the most amazing community, and seeing what they use Canva to create has been incredible. So seeing people get jobs because they've created a resume, or land a gig because they've created an amazing presentation, or be able to brainstorm a new idea with a whiteboard. All of these incredible stories really warm our hearts and keep us motivated to keep going.
Can you think about some key milestones that you have achieved, both personally and professionally, that have helped contribute to Canva's growth?
There's not one moment, but it's kind of like all of the moments together. Every time there's like a hard challenge that you overcome, every time we get an amazing new team member join and be able to contribute to our mission, every time, in the early days that we got an investor rejection, it just made our pitch deck stronger. So I guess all of these things kind of total to where we are today. But as we look, this is our second decade now, and we feel like we're just getting started. We're just at the start of this journey, and we're extraordinarily excited about how far we've come, but we're even more excited about where we can take it.
Joining me now is Gap Incorporated CEO Richard Dickson. We heard you in the boardroom. We saw you on the Bell podium. Now, this is arguably the most watched news event in the world, opening up the U.S. equity markets, and you've done it for the first time. How are you feeling?
Oh my God, I feel like I've just won the prize. This is like incredible moment. It's one that you grow up watching and imagining, and it's even better than I could have ever imagined it.
And we heard you a little bit in the boardroom talking about the significance of today, but tell me about why it was so important for you and your team to be here to ring the opening bell.
Listen, Gap is an iconic American brand, and we're celebrating 55 years of legacy. It's an extraordinary milestone moment. In many cases, we feel like this is actually the beginning of a new beginning. we've dressed, and defined American style for 55 years, and we really feel like we're just getting started.
And from what I understand, you have some very special guests with you here today. Talk to me about that.
We do. We have so many members of our team. We have family founding members with us as well. We've got employees from around the world. We've got the collaborators that we work with, partners, philanthropic partners, agency partners, all celebrating with us our extraordinary history, but even more important, the energy that we have for the future.
And tell us a little bit more about everyone who joined you on that Bell podium.
Well, they were very select people. I mean, we had a lot of people who wanted to be on that podium. Probably most iconic is Bob Fisher, who's part of the founding family. We had Zach Posen, our Chief Creative Officer for Old Navy and a creative director at Gap. Mark, the president and CEO of Gap, and all of our partners that mean so much, including, of course, really key members of the Gap team and Gap Inc. So it was really a moment of pride and celebration for everything that we represent, but again, all the energy for our future.
Absolutely, and today is the first day that Gap has officially a new ticker symbol, Gap. Talk to me about the change.
Well, first of all, come on, it's like the best branding.
I know you're literally walking around with your ticker symbol.
Of course, it was the most obvious ticker change and the symbol of our company. I mean, it's the heritage name of the company. It's now a portfolio of iconic American brands that's shaping culture. And the ticker is symbolic. It's symbolic of our pride, and it's symbolic around our energy for Gap as a brand and Gap as a portfolio of iconic American brands. So it's an exciting moment.
And I absolutely loved what you were saying in the boardroom, how Gap is really bridging the gaps that we see in society today. Everything from culture, diversity, inclusion, even climate change.
Yeah.
It really stands to the ethos of what your company's mission is.
Absolutely. And we pride ourselves on Doris Fisher, our founding mom, who essentially branded us by acknowledging that we do more than sell clothes. That was the origin story. The origin story of Gap was about bridging the generation gap through denim, which of course was the fabric of our founders. But it's evolved really to bridge gaps to create a better world. Climate, inclusion, opportunity, all the various differences between us really represents the purpose of our company, which is essentially to bridge gaps between us to create a better world. And we couldn't be more excited about the impact that we've had, and that we're going to have as we endeavor our purposeful-minded future.
Absolutely, and that really is in line with what we stand for here at the New York Stock Exchange as well, making a difference in the world, sometimes through IPOs every single day. But, I want to talk more about your company and your brand. We have Old Navy here also, ringing the closing bell, celebrating 30 years. Talk to me about the significance in that milestone.
Listen, Old Navy celebrating 30 years is another really exciting, magical moment that we're going to have as we close the bell. Old Navy is the largest brand in the Gap Inc. portfolio. It's also a brand that represents family, fun, and value. It is the style authority in American style at value. We couldn't be more excited about the future of Old Navy. Zach adding new creative energy into the Old Navy narration and product. Old Navy is obviously 30 years young, but we've got a lot in the future that's going to happen with Old Navy. Just watch the space.
And speaking of the future, let's talk about Gap Inc.'s future. What's next?
Listen, we have defined ourselves truly to become a high-performing house of iconic American brands that shape culture. We're driving our future by fixing a lot of foundational work, strategic priorities that we're relentlessly repeating, financial and operational rigor, which is showing up in the metrics that matter, expanded gross margin, leaner inventories, controlling expenses, and increasing that bottom line, while we're stabilizing the top line and using our playbook to reinvigorate these iconic American brands. The future is a very exciting place for us to aspire to. We've got a lot of work in the here and now, but we are delivering what we say we're going to deliver, and the future is going to be quite bright.
The future is going to be bright. Well, full speed ahead.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure having you. I'll let you continue the celebration.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Take care. Now, data and AI company Databricks is one of the most notable holdings in the NYSE Open Venture Capital Unicorn Index, something that we'll get to momentarily. But I recently had the opportunity to speak with the company's VP of Financial Services, Jim Fanning, about a recent acquisition made by the relationship with our parent company, ICE. Let's check it out.
Databricks is essentially a big data and AI company, but we're a full stack. We like to think of ourselves as a data intelligence platform. So everything from extract, transform, and load of that data to large data warehouses and Delta data lakes built on Delta, all the way through AI and generative AI technology.
And congratulations on your recent acquisition that was announced. Tell me about it.
So we announced the acquisition of Tabular. And so for us, it's all about giving customers choice in terms of the file format they want to use. So when building a data lake, Databricks traditionally was built on Spark and also Delta as the file format. But now folks who are using Apache Iceberg will be able to seamlessly integrate with Databricks as well.
Talk to me about how the collaboration with ICE, which is the NYSE's parent company, how that collaboration helps enhance the capabilities of Databricks Marketplace.
Yeah, so with ICE, I think we're just getting started, at least I hope so. But right now, what we have available through the Databricks Marketplace is municipal bond data as well as ESG data. And these data sets are really perfectly suited for Databricks because with us, it's all about speed and scalability and security. So whether those quants want to quickly analyze that data and use it for backtesting, or whether you want to allow multiple business owners to be able to access that data, Databricks is the perfect platform for that.
Can you give me some real life examples on how this strategy really benefits when it comes to handling quantitative strategies or algorithmic trading solutions?
Yeah, well, these are massive data sets, right? So speed is really important. All of this data is loaded into memory, which gives developers and quants real-time access and speed. And the other part of it is it's governed by a single platform, and that's really important as well. So if you want to do analysis of what your portfolio might look like in the future, or also backtesting based upon years of data, Databricks is the perfect platform for that.
So what are the top priorities now for 2024?
We believe in a governed data strategy, right? And I mentioned the term data intelligence platform. For us, what that means is weaving your data strategy together with the ability to do artificial intelligence throughout all layers of the stack. So that's really what we're focused on. And we had an acquisition a little over a year ago of a company called Mosaic, and they're key to our future both AI and generative AI strategy. Our philosophy is it's your model and your data. We allow customers to bring their model, whether it's a quantitative analysis model or whether you're building a large language model for the purposes of generative AI. You have full control and you have full control of your data at all times.
Now this week, our parent company, ICE and Open, a fund management company backed by the New York Stock Exchange, announced the launch of the NYSE Open Venture Capital Unicorn Index, a new benchmark for a basket of US-based privately held and venture-backed unicorn companies. Joining me now to talk more about this is David Shapiro. He is the co-founder and CEO of Open. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So let's first start by talking about this product, what it has to offer, and how is it unique from anything else that's out there on the market?
It's a great question. We're introducing the revolution of passive investing and indexing to private markets. And what this offers is access, transparency, and really trusted insights into today's 50 largest US unicorn companies.
Talk to me about the current VC-backed ecosystem. What are we seeing out there, and how is it different than what we saw a year ago?
Oh, it's so different, frankly, in a good way. Markets have really started to recover, particularly in late-stage venture, where we see companies more ready to IPO, companies that have remained private for a very long time, trying to give liquidity to employees, early investors, and taking that leap of faith. And we have seen that really impact how venture investors are starting to reassess investing in the late stage versus the early stage.
What sort of challenges right now are startups seeing in 2024 as opposed to what they saw in 2021? And would the rate cuts have any sort of impact on this?
They would. We anticipate, knocking on wood, that the Fed will move rates in September, and that will allow companies that have been pretty cash tight. Remember, 2021 was a very, very frothy environment where companies could easily access venture cash. That has changed pretty dramatically. They had to focus on profitability, they've had to focus on making tough decisions, and we're finally starting to see the benefit and the reward of those decisions pay off. So we anticipate with rates changing in September, the spigots will open a little bit more and innovation will continue to be funded.
And the NYSE's IPO's proceeds in the first half of the year exceeded, what we were anticipating and what we raised overall as an exchange. But talk to me more about what you see in the overall IPO sector when it comes to startups. What are the biggest trends?
Well, this is so important to our index in particular, which effectively tracks companies that are right at the cusp of that IPO. So we saw, big names like Klaviyo, Reddit, ARM, and Instacart IPO in the last year, signaling that markets are starting to open. And we think that particularly, again, in the wake of the Fed rate cut, we will start to see more companies start to explore the public markets. I'll note, interestingly, our index prices these top 50 unicorns, and all of them that have IPO'd in the last year, their valuations in our index were actually lower than their ultimate IPO share price, presenting a very unique opportunity for investors trying to get in right before.
Now, are there any specific startups that are contributing most to this momentum?
Absolutely. We've seen AI really take off over the last year, yeah. So versus 2021, where really OpenAI was the only AI company in our index, now we have folks like Anthropic, Scale AI, OpenAI, of course, and Databricks really driving a lot of the gains of the index's recovery. And we're actually up 22.6% year over year, largely on the back of those gains.
But talk to me about the criteria that you and your team evaluate, or companies need to meet rather, before you decide if you want to work with them, invest in them. What do you look for?
Yeah, well, we keep it pretty simple, and this goes back to our core mission of introducing passive investing. If you are in the index, you are one of the 50 largest, most innovative private companies in the United States, you're in the index. So if you're unfortunately not in that 50 yet, ultimately you'll grow large enough to be included in the index, and then as you IPO and take that next step in your journey as a public company, you leave the index, hopefully listing here on the New York Stock Exchange.
I love that. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Trinity. Appreciate it.
Now, it's been a very exciting morning here at the NYSE. Again, I'm Trinity Chavez, and as we sign off, we want to leave you with a look at Gap's Get Loose campaign. See you soon.
In life, I'm reminded that it's not about the destination, it is truly about the journey.
My pleasure to greet you today from the center of the U.S. capital markets here at the New York Stock Exchange.
I want to just take a minute and not just talk to the people that are in the room, but I want to speak to the rest of the team around the globe. These are people that made this happen, and I know that there is no way we would be here if it wasn't for you.
Everyone at Flutter is proud to join such a distinguished list of companies on this great stock exchange.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. Look how far we have come. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege to be with you.